didn't have any packets, she just had the tablets.
Right, okay, and that was on Tuesday?
Yeah, because I took a few off her as well, and that was on Tuesday, so whatever she's took today, there might not be all the packets. I'm just going to arrest you and get you offences into children.
What evidence are you doing it?
Jordan, you're obviously under arrest for quite serious matters. So are you responsible for causing the deaths of either Ruby, Laurel and...
No.
See what's the address?
Blackburn.
Is he a little boy or a little girl?
Little boy.
What are you doing at that time?
Watching TV.
Okay. Doing what was on?
Yeah, I was watching Die Hard.
Have you asked what's happened?
My baby's died. I just found him in the family's tea.
My name is Laura Christine Naomi Gray. I'm 30 years old and I'm a care assistant. I was brought up in Blackburn, but I now live in Darwin.
Not the best upbringing. We got taken off our mum and dad and we got moved with our auntie. Me and Laura were extremely close, as we still are now. We're best friends as well as sisters. We hung around with the same group of friends. Obviously we went to the same school.
So I met Jordan when I was about 10. My family and his family have always known each other. He was a bit of a bad boy, robbing cars and taking drugs. I fancied him for ages. Because I didn't have the best upbringing, he was my support, he was my rock. He was really supportive. And because I was only young, I liked the bad boy image that he had. And he showered me with a lot of gifts.
They even got engaged when Laura was 16. And he went to a great deal of planning. He booked a nice restaurant in Blackburn town centre. He bought a ring. The restaurant was packed. After the meal, he got down on one knee in front of the whole restaurant and asked her to marry him. It was a real sort of romantic experience for her. Then she found herself in a situation where she had her Prince Charming.
Well, we got our first house when I was 17. We got it together. We had a couple of arguments because he's always been into gambling. All the bills he was in control of. My wage used to get paid into his bank and he was in control of all the money.
It would have been very, very easy for Monaghan to convince Laura that his taking charge of their finances was actually him taking responsibility. But in actual fact, it's a sign of coercive control. Coercive control is a far more subtle type of abuse than physically assaulting a partner, but it can be just as harmful. It's all designed to make Laura feel that she is inferior in some way and making her dependent upon Monaghan.
I found out that he hadn't been paying the bills or the rent, so we actually got kicked out because we was that much in debt. We lived there for a couple of months. I think about 2 weeks after we moved into my sister's, I then found out I was pregnant. I didn't worry about the debt. That just went like to the back of my mind and I never thought about it. I was just really excited that I was pregnant. It was just amazing. When I holded him, it was just amazing. It was absolutely beautiful. Jordan had 2 weeks off when Logan was born and then he went back to work. But then as soon as he got home from work, before he did anything, he'd tend to Logan straight away. I'd go up and have a bath. It was really good. We did have a couple of arguments about money. It was always about money, that's all we ever argued about. Because he was still in control of all the money. I told him that I couldn't keep doing this, that we've never known money. So I just told him, I'm going to go to shopping, you can stay at home with Logan, and then when I get back I want you gone. As I was walking into the shopping centre, I then had a phone call off Jordan saying that Logan has gone really drowsy.
Good afternoon, you're through to the one-on-one service, and how can we help?
I think he's ate some paracetamol. I'm not too sure, I'm just wondering what I should do.
He said that there was a packet of paracetamol on top of the fireplace, and there was teeth marks on the packaging, and he couldn't remember how much paracetamol was in there.
What I need to do is call an ambulance, Jordan, for him. The ambulance should be with you within the next few minutes now.
Alright, thank you.
And I remember Laura ringing me and saying that he'd had some bloods taken and nothing shown in the blood, so there were no real evidence to suggest that he took any paracetamol, so I was just relieved.
Because of all that, and I was just worried about Logan, I don't think we spoke about us splitting up that day when Logan got discharged. I think it was the day after Jordan promised me again that he'd sort all the money out, and again I just believed him.
Monaghan had tried begging with Laura, he'd argued with Laura, and still she'd stood on her own 2 feet and said, no, I want you to leave the house. So this is the first time that he uses Logan directly as a weapon. And he wants to create a huge distraction, but also, let's be very clear about this, he wants to punish Laura. He wants to punish her for wanting to leave him. He doesn't feel that she is entitled to do that. And so it's incredibly passive-aggressive, it's incredibly manipulative, but it's also not a little bit sadistic, because he knows what Logan means to Laura. He knows the panic and distress that she is going to be going through. And in actual fact, he watches that, and he certainly learns from that.
So when I found out I was pregnant, I spoke to Jordan about it and he was really supportive, and I spoke to my sister and she was brilliant, and then I went for my first scan and just fell in love. We had everything we ever wanted, 2 healthy, beautiful babies, a house. Jordan was always really good with the children. He would help out, he'd make bottles, he'd feed them, change the nappy, play with Logan. Him and Logan were best friends. Logan adored him.
No.
It was always about money, that's all we ever argued about, and him gambling.
So Laura gave him an ultimatum: either he stops gambling or he's going to have to leave.
I was upstairs folding some washing. Jordan was downstairs with Ruby and Logan, and he just shouted me from the bottom of the stairs and said, I don't think Ruby's breathing properly. So I come running down and I took Ruby off him and told him to ring the ambulance.
Ambulance, what's the address for an emergency?
New Chapel Street.
Tell me exactly what's happened.
It's my daughter's struggling to breathe really badly. She's going blue in the face.
Is she breathing?
Yes, well, she's struggling.
They said they thought she had the start of bronchitis, but she was well enough to be discharged, like she was absolutely fine.
I'd planned to go out for New Year with my friends to do the countdown and stuff. And I remember saying to Laura, I'm not going to go now because Ruby's been poorly. And she's like, just go, we're home now, she's fine. If there's any issues at all, I'll ring you straight away. So I went out with my friends.
Just after 12, I said, I'm shattered, I'm ready to go to bed. And Jordan said, well, Ruby's due a feed at 2 o'clock, so I'll stay down here. The fact that I went to bed that night, if I could change that now, I would. I think it was about 10 to 2. Jordan shouted, "Laura, come down. I don't think Ruby's breathing." So I've come down and she's still in a Moses basket on the floor. A blanket was over her. So I leant over and knew there was something not right from looking at her. So I pulled the blanket off, checked if she was breathing, and she wasn't. So I got her out and I told Jordan to ring the ambulance.
Ambulance emergency, tell me exactly what's happened.
My daughter, she's not breathing.
Is she awake?
No, she's not breathing.
I'm going to tell you how to give mouth to mouth, okay? This will keep her going until the ambulance crew arrive.
So the ambulance came. They carried on with the CPR and then took her to the hospital, and then shortly after she was pronounced dead. Absolutely devastated. She just looked so small. Worst feeling of my life. I asked them to ring Jordan, and then it felt like ages after. That's when Jordan come up. And I was just about to tell him what had happened, and he just said, "I know," and cuddled me. I felt closer to him, if anything, because he was going through what I was going through.
The loss of a child is so incredibly devastating that it can blow a couple apart, but it can also bond a couple together, even a dysfunctional couple. So, of course, a bereaved mother is going to want to lean on her partner for support, and she is going to want to support him as well to the best of her ability. So she's going to be willing to overlook certain behaviours and put them down to that just being his grieving process. She feels that those two have been through something that really nobody else in the world can understand, because only they experienced it, and only they are the parents of this child that they've lost.
The gambling, well, I thought it had stopped. Jordan made me feel like I couldn't do it on my own. And because I've always wanted the normal family with mum and dad, because that's what I never had, Jordan knew that. And he told me all the time that that's all I've ever wanted, and how would Logan feel if we weren't together and we lived in different houses.
Monaghan had known Laura since she was 10 years old, so since she was a child, and a very unhappy child at that, so he knew precisely what emotional buttons to press. He's wanting to make her feel guilty. And of course, it distracts. It distracts from the issue that is actually the real issue, the gambling and his behaviour. So it's gaslighting and it's emotional blackmail. Again, he's using Logan as a tool of emotional blackmail and control.
A couple of months later, I found out again that Jordan had been not paying the bills, so I told him I didn't want to be with him. He was at home with Logan, and I said, "I'm going out for a bit. You spend some time with Logan, and then when I come back, you can go." So I went to my sister's for a bit. And then I got a phone call off Jordan saying that he had took Logan to the park, and then he come back, and after about 10 minutes, Logan collapsed into the settee, and he said that he looked very pale and he went very drowsy. So I said, "Ring an ambulance, I'm on my way down."
Ambulance service, what's the emergency?
It's just my little boy. He's not breathing properly. He's just not himself. He could hardly walk a minute ago.
Is he awake?
Yeah, he's awake.
Is he breathing?
Yeah, but not normally.
I'm organising the help for you now.
I went down and Logan didn't look right. The hospital put it down to a bit of sunstroke because Jordan said that they'd been at the park and it was a hot day and Logan hadn't really drank much. So he got discharged and he was absolutely fine. And again, me and Jordan just carried on. With everything going on with Logan, I just didn't even care about the money. I was just scared about Logan and stuff. So I think again he told me that he'd get himself sorted, everything would be fine. So I believed him.
When a child is ill, that problem overshadows any other problem that you might have in your life. So of course, Laura's priority is Logan and Logan's health. She's not thinking at this point about the problems in her relationship with Monaghan. She's not thinking about the family's finances. Of course not. So that creates a space for Monaghan. It creates a little bit of respite for him where he can operate to try and regain some control over Laura and re-establish that dependence that she has on him. For now, at least.
I found out that he'd got a credit card in my name, which I knew nothing about. I just got the letter through the door saying that I owe this much, and he admitted that he'd been gambling quite bad online and he'd got himself into a lot of trouble. So I ended it. I said I didn't want to be with him. Jordan was begging me, pleading, like, just get back with me. I didn't feel well that week. I had the flu. So I said to Jordan, you can take Logan out for a bit and then when you come back I want you to go. The fact that I let him take Logan out, I'll always blame myself for that.
He said that he was taken into the park. Apparently he took him into the swimming baths, paid to get in for swimming for both of them, gone down into the changing rooms and then realised that he hadn't took his swimming trunks or a towel or something like that. And then obviously he's come out of swimming with, I remember I think it was one of the reception ladies at the bath said that the rain cover was over him, which was very odd because in waves, where it used to be, the minute you opened the door you was instantly sweating. Like the place was so hot.
I heard a knock on the door, so I went to unlock it and it was Jordan and Logan. So he opened the door and I just glanced down at the pram and the rain cover was down. And Jordan said to me straight away, shh, he's asleep. So I opened the door and I just went and sat down. And he wheeled the pram in, right past me and straight into the dining room. And then just left Logan in the pram in the dining room. And then Jordan said, can I stay and have tea with him one last time? So I said, right, okay, yeah, that's fine. So he went to the shop and then he come back and said the takeaway was closed. I hadn't woke Logan up at this point because Logan hated being woke up. He'd go in a bad mood. So Jordan said, right, the takeaway should be open now. So Jordan left and then I got up and went into the dining room, lifted the rain cover up, looked at Logan and just knew straight away that something was wrong. So pulled the blanket off him and touched him and noticed that he wasn't breathing. So I ran to the living room to get my phone.
See what's the address?
New Chapel Street, Blackburn.
Is he a little boy or a little girl?
Little boy.
Is he awake?
No.
Which area's the emergency?
Blackburn.
Tell me that address.
Please, my baby's died. Please let me home.
Are you with your baby now?
Yeah.
Okay, how old are they?
21 months.
Is he awake?
No.
Breathing?
No.
I didn't know how to do CPR, but I knew Jordan did. So I rang Jordan and said, get home. And then Jordan come back and he started CPR. And he did that up until the paramedics came.
How long is the ambulance going to be? I don't know how long they're going to be. They're coming to you as fast as they can on lights and sirens.
They took him to hospital. And then that's when he was pronounced dead. Once Logan passed away, I didn't think I could carry on. I didn't want to carry on. I didn't see the point in carrying on without my children.
I think that as an adult, losing a child is the most emotionally painful experience that you can have. And loss of a child, one child, let alone two children, is associated with severe anxiety, depression, feelings of guilt. I think that as a parent, you expect that your child will outlive you. That is the natural order of things. And so to lose a child literally turns your whole worldview upside down.
The coroner left an open verdict. It was very frustrating to not have a cause of death. It was horrendous because he was healthy. He was happy. This used to drive me insane, but he absolutely loved it. And then this is for a bit of his hair. This was a dummy. She had that every day. It was massive, but she loved it. And I've got her hospital bands from when she was born and from when she passed away as well. These are everything to me. And I can go through them, but it is really difficult with what's inside them. So after Logan's death, life just wasn't the same. I carried on. Jordan carried on. I think we split up in 2016. I went on to do my separate things and he did the same. And then I had a breakdown and ended up in hospital.
The deaths of both Ruby and Logan were subject to review in 2018. We gathered all of the information, the previous investigation file. It's really, really difficult. You've got a loss of evidence from previous investigations because the deaths were treated or deemed to be natural causes. You've got medical evidence that's lost, CCTV. So it's really, really difficult to investigate historical crimes.
I was so shocked, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. For ages, I didn't believe it.
But yeah, it was like it weren't real. It took a lot to understand, like to try and get your head around the fact that, so they're basically saying that my niece and nephew didn't pass away from what they thought.
Laura has spent the last 5 years with no real answers about Ruby and Logan's deaths, but at least the belief that they died of natural causes. So imagine the shock of hearing that actually their deaths were possibly a calculated act, and not even by a bogeyman, but by the one man that she trusted above all others to love and protect their children, she's going to be in shock. And I think that the second emotion that comes after shock is denial, because who wants to believe something as hideous as that?
Laura was interviewed by specialist trained officers. We interviewed her over a period of 27 hours.
And it was only then I realised that everything that happened just didn't make sense.
Given the complexity of the case, given the support that Laura needed to deal with the things that she was talking about, we were able then to build up a picture of Jordan and Laura's life and the circumstances surrounding their relationship. Jordan was gambling, as a result causing debt for the family, and that was causing fallouts between Laura and Jordan. And on the day of Logan's death, Jordan decided to take Logan swimming. When put together with all of the circumstantial evidence surrounding Logan's death and Ruby's death, the common denominator is Jordan Monaghan.
Time is 7:05 hours.
Yes, sorry, I'm police officer. It's all right. I'm just going to arrest you and get some offences into children. Okay.
So Jordan was arrested initially on suspicion of the murder of his children.
What evidence are you doing this?
Everything will explain to you. Everything you get to the police station. Okay.
Jordan, you're obviously under arrest for quite serious matters. Again, asked you before we start, are you responsible for causing the deaths of either Ruby, Logan?
No.
Right, okay. So you're downstairs, are you? With Ruby?
Yeah.
Right. What are you doing at that time?
Watching TV.
Okay. Doing what was on?
Yeah, I was watching Die Hard.
Die Hard? And where was Ruby?
In a Moses basket.
Right, so you brought the Moses basket?
Yeah.
Was it just that night you brought the Moses basket?
Yeah, but like I said before, on the odd occasion, if we were staying up late, we'd bring the Moses basket down.
Right.
It was comfy for her as well. And that night, we was up till after midnight, so obviously it was New Year's Eve. And
He gave full and comprehensive accounts detailing his movements throughout all of the circumstances.
You're under arrest, obviously, on suspicion of the attempt murder of Logan. That's for instance on the 27th of the 7th, 2013. That's attempt and the murder on the 17th of the 8th, 2013. Okay?
Yeah.
It sounds it was before. You're responsible for either of those two offences?
No.
But he was away when you left Waves?
It was, no. Not when I left.
He wasn't awake? When did he fall asleep?
Just as we was coming out of Wales.
And given the complexity of the case and where we were at that time, we needed to bail him for further inquiries.
Monaghan showered her with overt kind of public gestures of love. Then he does a Facebook live broadcast of him proposing to Evie on social media. She immediately accepted and the two were engaged.
I'm really not a fan of public proposals. You might think that they're very romantic, but in actual fact, it's very difficult for the person being proposed to say no when they are surrounded by a sea of expectant faces. So it's an awful lot of pressure on that person. Now, what Evie doesn't fully understand at this point is here is a man who has a history of criminal and antisocial behaviour. He has a history of coercive control of his partners and fatal violence towards his children. So when you put all of that into context, this proposal is actually just another red flag in a sea of red flags.
By all accounts, he was convinced that she'd made noises about breaking the relationship off. Evie complained to her father and her family that she was having stomach pains, and she was well known for shying away from taking painkillers and paracetamols. But things got so bad that she started taking painkillers.
She didn't have any packets, she just had the tablet.
Right, okay, and that was on Tuesday?
Yeah, because I took a few off her as well, and that was on Tuesday, so whatever she took today, there might not be all the packets.
Okay. There's night nurse, cocodamol, paracetamol. I'm just wondering, because when I just mentioned that to you before, you said that the blister packets might have been on a t-shirt outside the bedroom door.
I gave them to the I picked them up and I said to the paramedics,
okay,
this is what's as well.
I was doing jury service and the police turned up and said that Evie had passed away, and I said straight away, it's him.
The other tablets you mentioned, sorry, Jordan.
Just a quick question, Jordan, while I'm here as well. I can't see any empty wrappers or packets of medication.
I gave the paramedics some that was on the floor, cocodamol and paracetamol.
They've already took them?
That's all that I could find. I've not looked around, they were just on the floor there.
So when we became aware that his current partner, Evie Adams, had died as a result of a suspected overdose, our suspicions were immediately heightened. He was arrested and interviewed, but we didn't have sufficient evidence at that point to charge him.
There was a bizarre scene where Monaghan was organising Evie's funeral, and he's taken the back off a photograph in front of her friend or some of her family, and found a suicide note in the back of this photo.
He was with a friend of Evie's. They were packing up some of her things, and then all of a sudden he pulls out a picture frame with a photograph of him and her, takes the back off the picture frame and says, I found this note. They read it, it's a typed note, and it appears to be a suicide note from Evie. Prior to Evie's death, she went away for a weekend with some friends to a caravan, and during that weekend Evie became ill with a stomach bug. Evie never got better. She progressively, her symptoms became a lot worse. What we believe is that Jordan has instigated, or at least took advantage of Evie's sickness to give her tablets that ultimately led to her collapse. So during the investigation, we identified that Jordan Monaghan was in communication with other individuals involved in selling and buying illegal prescription drugs. And as a result of the arrest of those individuals, we identified WhatsApp messages between them and a WhatsApp group with Jordan Monaghan. These messages were absolutely key, because on the build-up to Evie Adams' death, it was quite clear that Jordan Monaghan was trying to source the exact same drugs that were found in Evie Adams' system. Jordan's physical reaction to being charged was, there's no emotion. No emotion, no emotion when going through the last moments of their lives. No emotions when reliving the deaths and the circumstances surrounding his 3 loved ones.
The trial at Preston Crown Court went on for 10 weeks. There was some of the leading experts in pathology, neurology, cardiology, medical experts coming in to talk about the medical evidence relating to the children. It was a big, big case, and it was very, very complex. This is probably the biggest murder trial that's taken place in a generation.
He maintained that these were sort of natural deaths, and in Evie's case, a suicide.
I was absolutely terrified because it was such a hard trial. There were so many different doctors and medical experts involved.
The case has been hugely difficult from the very beginning because of that absence of direct evidence. We asked for advice from forensic pathologist, paediatric pathologist, neurologist, cardiologist, infectious diseases specialist, geneticist, all to rule out any potential natural cause for Ruby's death. So ultimately, the overall evidence supported that Jordan had obstructed Ruby's airway through pinching her nose and putting his hand over her mouth. On the day of his death, Jordan decided to take Logan swimming to Waves in Blackburn. We now know that Jordan has travelled to Waves, pushed Logan in his pram into a changing room within Waves, spent some time within the changing room, at which point we believe that is where he's obstructed Logan's airway and ultimately killed him. He's then left the swimming pool, got a taxi home with the rain cover over the pram. He's then tried to distance himself from the discovery of Logan being deceased by removing himself from the address and trying to get Laura to wake Logan up. A forensic linguist who reviewed the note said that it was their opinion that it was Jordan that wrote that note and not Evie.
Yeah, the jury took 26 hours to finally deliver a verdict. That was spread over almost 5 days worth of court time.
It's really important, given the number of offences that he was on trial for, that the jury take the right amount of time to consider the verdict. So to sit in court and for the jury to find Jordan Monaghan guilty on all counts was overwhelming.
To hear them words, guilty, was just everything, because I was absolutely terrified that he was going to get not guilty. The whole way through, I was really scared. But yeah, luckily enough, he got guilty. I was happy that he got 40. I was expecting a lot less. So to get that 40, the thing is though, it doesn't bring my children back, so it's still not long enough.
First and foremost, my thoughts are with the family and loved ones of Ruby, Logan and Evie. Nothing will bring them back, but I hope today's conviction
and sentence gives them some comfort.
It makes me really proud as a police officer and a senior investigating officer. It's a cold comfort for Laura, really, because she's lost her babies.
Monaghan ultimately killed his own children and his own fiancée because not only couldn't he cope with the idea of being rejected, I think he was addicted to killing. Like a dog that tastes blood, it will kill again.
Why did Monaghan kill Evie Adams? Well, maybe killing had become easy for him at that point, or even enjoyable. It certainly gave him access to sympathy, to attention, to a means of manipulating everybody around him. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is he chose to kill Evie because his life was spiralling out of control. He was under investigation. She wanted to leave him, and his thinking changed from I can manipulate her into staying with me to I can kill her for daring to leave me.
It's heartbreaking every time I come. He shouldn't be here. He should be with me. That's looking better. I can see you a bit better now. All them leaves have gone. You look a lot better. A lot cleaner. Bye-bye, sweetheart. Love you. Look after each other. No fighting and arguing. Love you both and see you next week.
I can't imagine what Laura has been through to come to the realisation that the person that she loved and trusted the most is responsible for taking her children away from her. And then to sit through 12 weeks of trial where Jordan Monaghan spent a lot of his time trying to discredit Laura, trying to discredit her character, her personality. I think that what she did was astonishing.
I've got a new partner now. He is everything to me. It's a different... He treats me how I should be treated. He treats me right. He loves me right. There's no control there. Yeah, I love him. Every second of every day, my kids are on my mind, and I'll speak the name for as long as I'm here. They'll never get forgotten by me. Definitely not.